What is so special about the enchanting nature of God's personal form? Look at it this way. A rose is such an attractive flower, the king of flowers. People very tastefully put it on the collar of their coats. But a part of the same rose bush is its twig with its thorns. Have you ever heard of somebody putting a twig on their coat collar? Of course not. Why? Because people would consider them foolish. So even though the rose bush is one, yet there is such a distinction between a twig and its flower. Likewise, the Supreme Divine Personality The story of Shukadeva Paramahansa is one of the most inspiring in our Puranas because Shukadeva himself has been one of the most elevated spiritual personalities in Indian history. So at the end of the story is a huge takeaway for all spiritual seekers. When Shukadeva came to his mother's womb as the child of Vedavyas, like any baby, his body kept expanding for 9 months. After that, he kept it in that situation and continued residing within for the next 12 years. When his father Vedavyas would recite a Veda mantra, Shukadeva would find mistakes once in a while. Father, you mispronounced here. Vedavyas was astonished. I am the writer of 18 Puranas. This child is not even born and he is able to find my mistakes. He said, Beta, why don't you come out? Shukadeva responded, Father, I am scared of Bhagavan's Maya. If I come out, it may overwhelm me. Narad had to intervene and speak through the mother's ear. It is okay, nothing will happen, please emerge. That is when Shukadeva took birth. And immediately by the power of his yogic austerities, he made his body that of a 12-year-old and walked off. He did not even tell his father, please give me permission for sanyas. He just straight left the house. The father was calling from behind, Beta, Beta, Beta. But the child heard nothing. Yam prabrajantam anupetam apeta krityam dvaipayano virahakatar ajuhava putreti tanmayataya tarvobhinedustam sarvabhuta hridayam munimanatosmi. Why did Shukadeva not respond? Because he lifted his mind to Nirvikalp Samadhi, a state in Advait, where all a person perceives is the self. Yatra hi dvaitamiva bhavati taditareteram jigharati taditareteram pashyati taditareteram shrinoti taditaretara mabhivadati taditareteram manute taditareteram vijanati yatravasya sarvamatmaiva bhut tatkenakam jigharet tatkenakam pashyet tatkenakam shrinuyat tatkenakam abhivadet tatkenakam manvita yenedam sarvam vijanati tankenakam vijaniyat digvatat ramare kena vijaniyat dviti. This mantra of the Vrihadaranyaka Upanishad states that a Paramahansa Jnani is one who only perceives the self through all the senses. So Vedavyas had to return, but before that, an episode happened which was so astounding. There were some women bathing in a lake, and when 12-year-old Shukadeva went by, they continued to bathe in their naturality. However, behind was following Vyas, an old man, and the women saw him. They immediately started covering themselves with their clothes. That hurt Vyas very much. Drishtvānuyantam rishimatmajamapyanagnam devyo hriya paridadhurna sutasya chitram tadviksha prichhati munau jagadustavasti stri pumbhida nastu sutasya vivikta drishte. Vyas stood there and annoyance asked the women, "Can I ask you a question?" "Yes, please do." "Just now my young son went by and you did not cover yourselves. I am an old man. Why are you feeling so embarrassed as to put on your clothes?" The women said, "O sage, if you don't mind, we will respond. You are a Hansa and your son is a Paramahansa." Now, what is the difference between a Hansa and a Paramahansa? Jada chetana guna dosha maya vishva kina karatara santa Hansa gunagaha hipaya parihari vari vikar. A Hansa is a person who perceives this world of Maya and also perceives the all-pervading God within this Maya and grasps God, leaving out the Maya. Like the Hansa, the swan, if you place before it a mixture of milk and water, the swan will drink the milk and leave out the water. So, you are an elevated Hansa. You don't grasp Maya through your senses, but your son is a Paramahansa. A Paramahansa is one who does not even perceive the world. Sarvam khal vidam brahma, only sees God everywhere. Vyas said, "You are right." Vyas, being an avatar of God, was himself a Paramahansa. However, for the sake of preaching, he had lowered his consciousness to that of a Hansa. So he asked, "How did you ladies come to know such a subtle spiritual point?" They said, "Any woman in this world, when she looks at the eyes of men, can make out with what sight are they looking towards her. With fatherly vision, with brotherly affinity, or lustfully. When your son went by, his eyes remained the same, as if out of stone. There's a tree, there is a lake, there are women. When you came, your eyes changed. They may have changed an annoyance. These women are breaking the rules of the scriptures by bathing without clothes in the open. But whatever be the case, when we saw the change, we realized you are not a Paramahansa." Vyas returned from there. That Shukadeva, he went deeper into the woods, sat down in a place, and he reached the 7th level of Nirvikalp Samadhi. In the subsequent months, Vyas wrote the Srimad Bhagavat Purana. Once, some of his students came to that spot for gathering wood and saw this youth sitting as if in Samadhi. They said, "Impossible, he cannot be in Samadhi." So they tried to jerk him out of it. One lifted the eyebrows and blew into the eyes. Another put a twig into the ear. A third a finger into his nose. But Shukadeva's mind was actually in Samadhi, and he remained unmoved. The boys went and related the incident to their guru Vyas, who immediately understood, "This must be my child Shukadeva." He asked his disciples to learn a verse from the Bhagavatam and go and relate it in Shukadeva's ear. The boys did as told and spoke into Shukadeva's ear, Varhapidam natavarvapuhu karnayo karnikaram vibhradvasah kanakakapisham vaijayantim chamalam randhran venoradhara sudhaya purayan gopavrindair vrindaranyam swapadaramanam pravishad gita kirtihi. This verse is from the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It describes an evening scene. Sri Krishna had gone into the woods to graze the cows with his cowherd friends. And at sunset he is returning by a road next to the river Yamuna. His yellow pitambar is flying in the air. His curly hair are like cascading bumblebees. His peacock crown is residing on his head, and his body is swaying like that of a baby elephant. His flute is on his lips as he calls out the gopis by his names. When Shukadeva, who was in deep meditation on the formless Brahman, received this verse, he was shocked. Actually, nothing could have gone into that samadhi because his mind was held still. But it was a divine verse, so it entered the divine trance. And the light on which Shukadeva was meditating turned into the personal form of God. And Shukadeva thought, oh my, Sri Krishna is so enchantingly, rapturously, fascinatingly beautiful. I was unnecessarily worshipping his light aspect, the formless Brahman. He got out of his samadhi and he asked the boys, where did you get this verse from? They became scared. His samadhi is broken. He may be annoyed and curse us. So they said, we have got it from Vedvyas, our guru. Vedvyas, my father? Shukadeva got up, went straight back to Vedvyas and heard the entire Bhagavatam from him. That was the Bhagavatam which he related to Parikshit on the banks of the Ganges over a period of 7 days when Parikshit was cursed to be bitten by the poisonous Takshak snake. So what is the learning? Let's see what the art and science of happiness has to say. The episode reveals the unsurpassable sweetness of Premanand in comparison to Brahmanand. Absorbed in divine love for Sri Krishna, Shukadeva's mind naturally detached itself from the bliss of the formless Brahman until he heard the verse. Dev had been meditating on divine light. On hearing the verse, the light turned into Sri Krishna. It thrilled every pore of Shukadeva's body, and he pondered, why was I running after the formless when Sri Krishna is so blissfully enchanting? So what is this enchanting nature of God's personal form? Look at it this way. A rose is such an attractive flower, the king of flowers. People very tastefully put it on the collar of their coats. But a part of the same rose bush is its twig with its thorns. Have you ever heard of somebody putting a twig on their coat collar? Of course not. Why? Because people would consider them foolish. So even though the rose bush is one, yet there is such a distinction between a twig and its flower. Likewise, the Supreme Divine Personality is one, and yet the bliss of the personal form of the Lord is so much delectably sweeter than the infinite bliss of the formless Brahman. So what is so special about the bliss of the personal form of the Lord, or Premanand? Well, have you ever eaten mangoes? Of course, Swamiji, Indian mangoes, the king of fruits. But tell me, if you sit and start relishing mangoes, and by your side somebody starts relishing the mango twig, branches or leaves, what will you say to him? Crazy guy? He is rejecting the fruit and eating the leaves. What's wrong with him? Oh, I see. He's crazy because he's eating mango leaves. And you are intelligent because you are eating the fruit. Yes, I'm double MA. Oh, really? Very qualified. But tell me, isn't it after all just one mango tree? The twigs, branches, roots, flowers, leaves and fruit are all aspects of it. Yet, there is such a difference that for the fruit you say very intelligent and for the leaf you say crazy. Now suppose, consider the sugarcane tree. If there was a fruit on it, how sweet that would be. When the tree itself is so delicious, what would be the taste of the sugarcane's fruit? So many people say, what was wrong with Brahma? He created fruit on such bitter trees, and the sweet sugarcane tree he created without fruit. Well, let us consider the hypothetical case where sugarcane also had fruit. The difference in sweetness between the fruit of the sugarcane from its trunk, hypothetical case, gives us an inkling into the difference in the sweetness between the Brahmanand of the formless aspect of God and the Premanand, the divine love bliss of the personal form of God. That is the highest bliss. How will we reach it? We shall discuss in the final episode of this 25-part series on the art and science of happiness.